Okay, I think I'll go first. Good evening, Mr. Rubami.
Good evening, welcome.
Okay, I think one of the major things that that struck me at that your last meeting was when you talked about in a building where you are, take a stock of all the assets in that building. And when you now take a stock of take an inventory of all assets in the building and then have a strategy for all of those assets, no matter how insignificant they look. So that was something that I took away that was very, very key for me. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. All right, thanks a lot for that. Anyone else? Please show.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, okay, go ahead.
My take home is I understand that if you are just taking up a facility, after carrying out a condition assessment, we need to develop a comprehensive assets register. So with that, we'll be able to assign the maintenance that is required. And I also understand that majority of the assets, the maintenance strategy that will be for the majority of the asset is run to failure. So only few that we just need to put a preventive maintenance or reactive maintenance on. So that's my take home.
Okay, super. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to go into this lesson. This lesson is so important. We've all heard about quality, so it's almost like we bandy the word around a lot without applying it to our industry. Even when we do apply quality to goods, we mistake grade for quality. So you start hearing of something like it will last very long, it's high quality. What if it does not last very long? Can it not also be high quality, right? So that's a question you need to think about. Don't think of quality in terms of grade.
Mr. Daniel, show me love.
There are grades for all kinds of goods, tangibles. But for every grade, there is a definition of quality, even when looking at tangible items. In today's class, we're going to look at that briefly, but we're going to spend a lot of our time talking about service quality. It's actually more difficult to talk about service quality because there's a lot of perceptual, appraisal or non-objective or subjective, rather very subjective way of assessing quality of services. Because for the same service that's delivered by the same entity or person, two recipients might find different level of quality, as their own perception or definition of it. Again, what makes quality in the service industry more complicated is that service or quality of service has to be defined bespoke, in the sense that the individual who is ordering the service has to be the one to decide what is quality to him. And that can be a bit challenging. All right, so if you provide service and you have one generic way of delivering for everybody, you may not have the desired results because one or two persons might feel you're doing good enough, and the other person might feel that's not what I expect. You're just being busybodies. You're not doing quality service. So in our lesson today, we're going to be looking at the definition of quality, and then what it really means. So let me start with this, what it really means, right? So if you look at all of this, what it means features, they are how different people perceive, appraise, judge, accept service. And one more dimension before we even go further into this is quality is perceived, but the judgment of what the final quality is based on the original expectation. If the expectation is very high, whatever you do can be judged in terms of quality relative to that high expectation. Same thing with when it is very low, right? So two service providers can provide the same level of service, or even a single service provider can provide the same level of service to two service users or of customers. And because one expects very high quality and the other expects mediocre or low quality, for the same output, you will get two different judgments. Fortunately or unfortunately, service quality is defined by the customer. The customer's perception of your service quality is your final judgment. One of your important key performance indicators. There will be other KPIs that you will learn to apply and use in your work as facility manager. But the most
Hello? Is anyone there? Hello? Wow.
Hello, I can hear you.
You were so quiet. I was wondering.
I think the tutor, maybe the tutor network that went off.
Yeah, I was thinking I'm the one who is off because everyone was just quiet.
Even me. But it seems the tutor network is bad.
Taking NEPA there. NEPA is taking light there.
As well.
Okay.
sorry about that. Internet disruption. Okay, we're back. So for facility managers, you need to not only focus on what you're going to deliver to the clients, you must also focus on managing the client's perception of the service you are going to deliver. In essence, you must start from that focus so that your expectation is already managed before you get into the service delivery. So whether it's prompt delivery that's quality for this customer, easy availability, user friendliness, aesthetic appeal, nice features, proven reliability, lower costs. Costs is a big factor of quality. For many customers, the cheaper the better, right? You can say all you like about such customers, but that is quality for them. Good after-sales service, manifest durability, simple maintainability, perceived value, environmentally friendly, and so on and so forth. It is for us as FMs to understand the preference of our customers. So with that background, let's now look at the definition of quality. quality is a process of confirming customer expectations, establishing performance standards and metrics based on those expectations, measuring the degree to which current products and services meet the standards and metrics, and identifying and implementing improvements to satisfy the standards and metrics. What sticks out in this definition is 1, customer, customer, customer. It begins and ends with the customer. 2, metrics and standards. If you want to measure and know where you are, there must be something to measure with. A tool or metric is what we're talking about. So in essence, even though we're dealing with intangible service, perceptual measurements, we have to find a way to objectify that measurement using metrics. And metrics are things that we can measure, ratios that can tell us how we are doing. I use the word ratio deliberately because sometimes you can measure absolute numbers and not get a quality measure out of it. But if you do a metric usually will have a numerator and a denominator, and it will give you a number that you can use as a metric. For example, if we have costs of, say, providing electricity, that can be a very large number that we can throw around all the time. But that cost, that number you are quoting, is actually useless when it comes to quality if you cannot compare it to a cost driver. A cost driver is something that you use to accumulate costs. So if I have cost for producing water, right, and it's 1 million naira, I can now say for 1 million naira, I produce 1 million liters of water, right? So my cost driver is every liter of water costs me 1 naira. So if I do that ratio, I get the metric for water production. If I want to take that further, if I know how many people are in my building, I know that I generate 1 million liters of water. I can say for 200 people that I have in my building, we use up 1 million liters of water every day. So that becomes 5 liters per person, right? Now, so 1 million liters or 1 million naira used in producing water has no direct impact or relevance when it comes to quality. What has impact on quality in terms of what we can improve on is the driver. So if I do the metric and I find that it is 5 liters per person, if I want to improve on that, I'm not focusing on how to improve on 1 million liters. I'm focusing on how to reduce the amount of water used by one person from 5 liters to 4 liters. Now, whether that affects my total 1 million to make it come down, if my number of people remain constant, then that's good. But if my people increase, I can be improving that 5 liters to 4 liters and still have my total rise. And that is the significant lesson about metrics. So if you speak and deal your analysis in metrics, you will be improving and getting better in your performance, and yet all eyes will not be on your total. There are so many people who had lost this focus during the COVID period. They've been spending so much. They were not measuring using metrics. During the COVID period, offices were not occupied. Management was now the one using metrics to gauge them. You don't have people in the office. How come we are still paying 13 million naira as electricity bill? Who is consuming all that electricity? Because the expectation is that with 500 people using this office and 200 visitors coming in every day, there is a kilowatt per person per day based on what was being consumed, right? If they are no longer coming in here, how come we are still paying almost the same amount for electricity bill? Those are the kind of things that gets you thinking. So if you have even dropped your expenses of electricity, for example, during that period, by how much? If you are dealing with totals, you're not making any sense. Nobody can relate with that. If I drop from 13 million to 11 million as my electricity bill, I still can relate with that, right? Because my thinking is, oh, there's nobody in the office. Very few people come to the office. How come you're still using 11 million? That would be an issue, right? But if I'm going to situate that and say, you know what, for everybody that comes to the office, we use 25 kilowatts per day. Now that it has dropped to 200 people from 500, we are now using less by that ratio. Now, I can now create additional metrics to show how electricity is being used. If there are equipment that must be run, right, and total load of those equipments are maybe 1 megawatt, 1,000 kilowatts per day, for example, I should show that those ones are constantly, they have to constantly run. So I separate them from the kilowatt hours consumed by body heat, water production, sewage production, and all the other things that will stop when people leave the building. So in essence, you must be able to develop metrics to communicate anything that has to do with quality. And metrics are ratios, so make note of that. Let's get back to the definition of quality. You confirm customer expectations. What does this really mean? It means that you ask questions at several levels to understand exactly what the customer requires. You document using metrics, and then you confirm with the customer. The customer gives you, yes, this is exactly what I want. I'll give you an example. The customer says, go and install electricity in my office. I need electricity in my office. That sounds like a straightforward request. But if you go ahead to start acting on connecting electricity to that client's office without doing some of the things I'm going to share with you now, you will be one of the most foolish FMs out there. Because when you go ahead and install and connect that electricity, if for any reason you now start having surges tomorrow and the person says, my equipment are being blown out because of surges, what will you say? Well, I've given you electricity. Then you sound dumb. If the person says the light went out and a certain technician went to switch over and it took a whole 3 minutes, and you're like, 3 minutes is small now. They even take up to 15 minutes to do a changeover. Did you ask the customer what is sensitivity level of his equipment to know whether 3 minutes that you think is very impressive will be good enough for the customer? Probably some equipment have to stay running and cannot go off. Or probably when they go off, it takes a lot of time to reboot them. And the customer does not want electricity that breaks as part of the supply. You never asked. He says provide electricity and you went ahead to provide electricity. That is the level at which many FMs are operating today. We just have a way of doing things. So when we hear the word, boom, I need AC, I need food, I need water, we just go straight and say we know what you're asking for. No way. So back to that electricity example, I would ask, what is the load size? A little bit of an audit. Oh, there's an AC there, there's a ceiling fan, there are wall fans, there are computers, there are, and so on and so on. There's a TV, this is the size. I take all the wattage of all of them. Is it likely that they'll all be put on at the same time? I ask some of those questions to know the maximum load that will be required, because if you know the maximum load that will be required at any particular time, that becomes your bottleneck, that becomes your rating for that load requirement. So I note that. Of course, you can go further than that by doing a load profile through data logging or energy metering to get a sense of how energy is used over time, so you can know what the peak, the average, the days times of energy use will be. Now, that's just one thing that I've done as part of my confirmation. How sensitive are each of the assets in that location? If I have very sensitive equipment that cannot even stand fluctuations, I need to get a stabilizing unit. That's part of providing electricity. I need to get some surge protectors. How do you operate? At what time of the day or night do you have compulsory electricity requirement, or at what period or the other? What about when you need the power on running? Can you afford a blip? Are you able to accommodate up to 3 minutes, or can you actually run on for as long as 15 minutes to allow us somebody from the next compound or the gate across the compound to come and change electricity for you? You need to ask that question, right? And I'm just getting started. You need to ask how many people will be using the spaces. You need to ask what kind of service will be delivered. You need to, because if you don't understand the customer, you cannot know what their expectations are. So in essence, your summary of this first aspect of quality definition is, I know that the customer is a doctor. The customer provides emergency services. It provides critical care. The customer has certain equipment. The customer works around the clock. They run shift in that environment. I create something like a little bit of a profile description of what the customer is and what the customer wants. Then I now add my electricity provision for the customer would include a stabilizing unit, because voltage must not be between below 160 volts and not be above 220 volts. There must be an automatic changeover, because trip time or switch time should not be more than 1 minute or 30 seconds, according to the customer expectation. There are certain equipment that are very sensitive that cannot even accommodate a 1 minute switch time. For those ones, we're going to put them on a backup UPS power. That's how to get to the point where you now say, I know customer expectation. That is just for one example. You have to do that for your cleaning service. You have to do that for your catering service. You have to do that for your environmental service. You have to do that for, just think about everything you do. You need to confirm customer expectation. That is step one of this definition. Step two, establish performance standards and metrics based on those expectations. Part of what I've been describing about turning those customer expectations into objective metrics and numbers that can become your guide to what the customer wants. I talk about temperature, I'm talking about voltage range, there are amperage, load, there are earthing requirements, there are fluctuations, prevention, there are change times. I have put those ones in numbers. Those now becomes the performance standards and metrics that I've derived from inside my understanding of the customer expectation. I now measure the degree to which my current product and service can meet the customer expectation, right? So if I now put those numbers in place and I'll put the numbers of what I currently deliver, I know what the gaps are. So identify and implement improvements to satisfy the standards and metrics. I cannot overemphasize this. You cannot provide a service for which the person who is paying for the service had no interest. There's no way you can say you are providing good quality. By your definition, it is always a lie. Okay, so the whole process of understanding subjective information, converting them into objective data using standards and metrics, and then using standards and metrics to measure your performance and picking out or isolating the gaps, and then identifying means of improving your performance to be more and more in alignment with the customer's expectation, which you have already broken down using metrics and standards. So it is after you have the metrics and standards that establishes the customer expectation, that's when you now start talking about what to do, how you do it. And you are driving for alignment continuously. So in our industry, we talk about, oh, this place is very clean, it looks very well maintained. This is a high quality environment. The FM is doing a very good quality job here, right? good balance sheet, healthy balance sheet, profitable business, what processes that are aligned with strategic direction. When you have budgets that have anchors on strategic plans, when you have processes that when one person deliver and it's not there, the next person latches on to the same process to deliver the same output. Customers get the same result consistently, irrespective of whoever is on duty. Your workforce has committed to service excellence. When a team is beginning to drive for excellence, you get a sense that people are feeling empowered and they're beginning to feel implement quality. Effective FM monitoring and auditing tools that helps you to improve your operational performance, and then IT infrastructure that is scalable. There are so many things you can put in here when it comes to demonstrating FM quality. At the baseline of quality is compliance. If you are defaulting in basic compliance, you are not yet on the ladder of quality. Okay, so you cannot be talking about high quality, not this one will stay more stable. All right, so let's get back to it. What's the purpose for quality in facility management, or what's our objective in talking about quality or implementing quality? We want to promote quality service delivery and enhance efficient use of resources by doing things right the first time. Do things right the first time. Every time somebody says, oh, don't be angry, I'll do it again. On whose time and whose cost, right? So that is, we say recover quickly, right? On your way to quality. But once you get a hang of this quality delivery, you will always deliver quality the first time. You do it right the first time. You pay attention to details, you improve customer satisfaction, and you save time and money. So what is right? At the basic level, right is defined by standards, which is at the lowest level, compliance to regulatory codes or building codes. You can't operate at any level below regulatory compliance. So that's the lowest standard you can be at. There will be individual standards, there will be client standards, there will be corporate standards, there will be professional body standard, there will be all kinds of standards. All of them must be above the lowest acceptable level, which is regulatory standard. But the individual or corporate or client standard is superior to that regulatory compliance standard, right? And because it is, you must understand what, how, when, and where as defined by the customer before you can say, this is how I will deliver quality. So we say, do it right. In this particular one, we say, get it right the first time. We're talking about what, how, when, where of the client or customer that's buying your service. It starts with you. There must be personal accountability, self-evaluation, and reality check, a passionate desire to learn and improve. You can't be thinking or talking quality if you're not making any extra effort on a daily basis to improve. You must ask yourself if what you are doing now is the same way you did it last year and the year before. You could just be, you could have your eyes open to, failures that have been putting you behind or holding you back because you're not doing things better. You've not taken stock of where you are and where you're coming from. You have to be better than your past. You have to be better than your previous achievements at every time going forward for you to say you're improving in quality. Improvement follows the discovery and application of laws, principles, and best known practices that govern the outcome of a specific endeavor. Universal law of cause and effect and determines all process improvement outcomes. And this states that only by improving the input to a process can you influence the output or results. In essence, you can't sit down to the process and ignore the input and hope to get a fantastic output. I give examples of reports. You send the reports and certain things are not factual, some information are missing, some things don't add up in the reports, and all kinds of questions come to you. And all you say is, the technicians fed me those data and I used them to make my reports, right? It's because you ignored the technicians and the process for gathering their own data, which is going to be an input to your own report at the end of the month. You waited for it to the end of the month, and you ended up with people who just scribble things at the end of the month and give to it. So you end up with a problem because you did not focus on the input. And as a team, we work as a network. Some people produce something and others take it as input. They produce something and others take it as input. That's how we work as a system. Improvement is a result of painstaking preparation, documented goals and procedures, measured performance, and persistent learning. So let's talk about how to get it right, how to implement quality. Step 1, standardize your task. This will give rise to improved processes. If you have a step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 for doing anything, there will be a continuous use of that step-by-step standard task to deliver consistent results. Now, what that also does is that it makes that process visible because we have documented it. And if we want to now improve the results tomorrow, all we need to do is look at the process again and say, let's do value stream mapping. What is not adding value to this process? What is an overstep, overkill? What's something we need to add to it to create better results? We know exactly where we are working from. We have a baseline we are working from in terms of how to improve the outcome, because we now have step-by-step standardized tasks in a process that we can improve. To improve the performance of any activity, increase the frequency of feedback to those engaged in the activity. The more frequent the feedback, the better the results. Don't wait until everything has totally collapsed before you say things like, I thought as much, or I said it. Let everybody be able to give feedback on an ongoing basis so that we don't make more mistakes when we suspect we are going wrong. Thomas Monson said, when performance is measured, performance improves. When performance is measured and reported, the rate of improvement accelerates. If you don't have what you are measuring, your job right now is a useless work. You cannot grow on it. You cannot deliver value. You cannot claim to be delivering value if you don't have things that you are measuring that shows whether you are making progress or adding value or not. Now, that is at the first level. At the second level, whatever you are generating as a report must be useful to someone else above you. If people above you see your report and they cannot make any inference of whether you are doing better or you are doing worse, your report is useless. And as such, you are not contributing, or at least whatever you are contributing is not being tracked as relevant, because you don't even have a way to know whether you are making progress or you are not making progress. You're contributing better or not. So performance must be measured and reported. Improvement is most likely to happen in an environment that promotes customer focus, clear goals, accountability, scorekeeping, frequent feedback, recognition of personal achievements, and celebration of victories. This you can take as a summary. This is something you can take as a mantra so that the entire team gets to know the principles behind quality improvement. If you adopt this, it becomes a way of life for everybody. We want to focus on the customer. We want to have clear goals. We want to have accountability. Each person knows what it's accountable for. We want to have scorekeeping. There must be something we are tracking and trending and measuring on an ongoing basis. We want to have frequent feedback, both to each other and from those above us. And when we succeed and excel, we need to see that we have recognition of those personal achievements and celebration of victories. These are the steps to improve our quality. I will talk about measurements, right? So for you to have a report that is useful, that can improve your quality, that can help you to grow, there must be things you're measuring, and they must be trendable and trackable, right? So if you measure and report today, I want to be able to compare what you have measured and reported today with your previous data that has been generated. And from that, be able to create a forecast, right, of expectations of your future performance. Now, if I'm able to do that, it means that your statistics or the data of your performance is not only measurable, can be tracked and trended. And some of the things that you can measure, track, and trend to show contribution to your organization at the highest level, at the level of organizational strategy or strategic objectives, are some of the ones we have listed here. If you are tracking rework, for example, and you are trending it, to what direction should it be trending? Upwards or downwards? Downwards, of course. And every time your rework is trending downwards, it means that resources are being saved. People are now working more efficiently and effectively. Time is being saved. Customers are being satisfied, more because they are getting their work done and not having to call back to have it redone. The same thing with customer complaint. So what direction should we head? Down, isn't it? What about recommendations from customers? Should we head down? No, up, right? And these are the things we talk about. So if you are not measuring all of these indicators of performance for the facility management industry, you are not yet doing quality. There's nothing you are improving yet in quality. We're not linking you to quality work yet, let alone improvement in quality. All right. So these are some of the things you can add to this list. Very many important items that can lead you to deliver better results to your customers. Some factors influence FM quality improvements. The FM leadership ability to guide the quality improvement process is directly affected by both external and internal factors. So external factors include weather and climate. Clean receptions, for example, can be a put-off for some customers and some management. But if you do the same thing in all seasons, you might find that in certain seasons you have less quality because you are doing the same level of work to provide the quality, but it's the weather or the climate is bringing up extra extra workload on your team, right? So how do we deal with external factors? We react to them, we respond to them, we plan ahead on how to react and respond to them, right? So whether it's natural disasters, political, economic, and social stability, and so on and so forth, we need to have some kind of planning. When you do the emergency preparedness and business continuity course, you will find that there are certain actions that you must take beyond your normal operations planning to prepare for such external impact. If they affect you and you are not ready for them, you can say it's not your fault, but professionally it's your fault because you did not create a risk management plan that envisages them, that anticipates them, and has a contingent plan in place for responding and reacting to them. And then again, you have the internal factors. The age of your buildings. If you have several buildings, their age determines quality, because when it's very old, you do the same thing. You may not provide the same level of the same kind of ambience or the kind of outputs that people expect. Employees, features or characteristics of employees, whether they unionize, their age range, their demographics, and so on and so forth. And whether you are doing a round the clock or shift or 8-hour day schedules, all of these are things that will affect your quality. And you need to be able to take control of the ones that are internal because they are within your own control and work with them. Some more quality measurement tools. I told you that when you talk quality, you're not talking absolute, talk metrics, and metrics are always ratios, right? So cost per square foot, cost per labor hour, supply cost per square foot, percentage of FM department budget to overall organization's budget, cost per acre, number of employees per square foot, number of work orders processed per employee, and so on and so forth. You can generate even 100 of these metrics, and they become the things you report on. I put a report here as numerator, I put another report here as denominator. I get exactly what I want to measure out of that, those two line items, and I create my metric, and that's what goes into. So I may have logs where I'm taking all of this data in the field, where I've filled in certain numbers as base numbers, and I've put in whatever are variable numbers. But what I need to put in my report cannot be those logs. So when I see you sending diesel log to management, sending cleaning materials consumption, I use inventory of things used in store, rosters of people coming to work and closing from work, and so on and so forth. It's just like a waste of time. A senior management person does not understand what all of that thing you put there means, except it's really into facility management. What they want to know is, how are we doing with respect to costs, health, and safety? The electricity we're using, how we're using it effectively, and so on and so forth. You must generate metrics with which you can translate those data into metrics and report to management. Otherwise, you'll be making, just continuously dumping information that is not really needed. Now, quality cannot be discussed without thinking of those who actually deliver the quality, your shop floor or frontline team. You have to learn these guiding principles on how to achieve the journey of quality improvement within your FM employees, because your employees are the face of your organization. In fact, they are a mirror of you as the facility manager. So whether they are in-house employees or contracted resources, whatever perception anybody has about even the worst of them is the perception they have about you. It gets worse when you now come and start badmouthing your own team members, calling them illiterate and using some derogatory terms on them. I'll say, look at the mirror and say those things again, and the person you are saying is the person that you're just describing. That's exactly how it is when we work with people. To get the high quality out of people, treat employees as they would want to be treated. There is the golden rule and there's the platinum rule. Golden rule used to be everything. Treat others as you want to be treated. I treat you the way I want to be treated. So if I like, to fast 3 times every week, everyone else around me that I want to treat, I give them fasting 3 times every week, right? The platinum rule says, no, ask them what they want. How do they want to be treated? Yes, of course, everybody requires something different. It doesn't mean that you're going to take a census of each person and try to customize rewards and exactly what each person needs. Imagine asking everybody, how much do you want to earn as your salary? Even those who are contributing the least will tell you 1 million naira or more, right? So, but treat people as they would want to be treated is in terms of the emotional engagement, in terms of the respect that goes with relationship with people that you work with. And as we'll see again, as we look down this list, we have in the industry today, some of the people that are treated the worst. You go to some areas and you see cleaners and technicians being treated like trash. That's what we don't want to be happening in the industry. There must be open communication with those you work with, and the expectations should be spelled out. I keep talking about this when I teach maintenance, teach cleaning, teach any of those shop floor activities. People should understand the objectives. People should understand why they are doing what they are doing. If somebody comes in and says, I'm a cleaner, and it cleans and leaves, they don't understand why he or she needs to clean, then there will be a problem. That's when the floor will be wet and they won't see anything wrong with it. That's when a socket will be off the wall, they will not see anything wrong with it. That's when something will be smoldering or smoking in one corner, they won't see anything wrong with it. He just knows that he's cleaning, and when he's cleaning, he's gone. But if he is taught the bigger picture of why he's doing what he's doing, he knows that somebody will use that space, and that person needs to be productive, that person needs to be able to smell fresh air, the person needs to be able to feel healthy and work productively. That cleaner's job is automatically transformed. That's what we're talking about. Demonstrate to people the vision, the end game, for all the tasks that they perform. They should feel valued. So listen, when people give you comments, if you shut down all comments, after a while, they shut down their own brains and they'll have no comments to give you. If you do get stuck later and you now ask somebody you have shut down before to make a comment, the person will give a comment that will be so stupid by every rationale of reasoning that even you will be astounded. But again, you are the ones that made those people to shut their brains out. If you keep engaging with ideas from employees, they will keep doing more analysis and having more ideas. They will be brain active on the job. Respect, they say, is reciprocal, right? So if you give respect, you get respect in return. Give praise and feedback. Doesn't mean you can't reprimand. Reprimand when something is wrong, but be objective in that reprimand. Open and direct communication. Value feedback as much as possible so that everybody feels a sense of belonging. Give a living wage. I see this issue of a fair and living wage becoming an issue when the minimum wage is 30,000. As people are paying 18,000 to cleaners. I had a discussion with the team, with the class on Saturday, and it was in every direction: 18,000, 15,000, 21,000, and so on and so forth. And I said, look, the truth is, many organizations are not packaging work that should be full-time work so that they can pay a full-time living wage or a fair living wage. Somebody comes to work in the morning, arrives before 8 o'clock. In 1 hour, the person has done all the cleaning so that those who are going to use the office will come in and use the office. And then you keep all of them there from morning till evening, when they will do trash pickup and do mild cleaning before they go home, right? And then you say, we cannot spend more than 1 million doing cleaning. That's the value you think you feel you are getting from cleaning. And you're dividing that 1 million by 50 people, it comes to 20,000 naira per person, right? Now, the mistake is that you can't pay a living wage because you're not getting value enough to pay a living wage for that number of people. You need to take a look at the job arrangement and say, we're going to pay you 20,000. All of you will work in the morning. Half of you will go. The other half will stay, or maybe a few to stay and do some ad hoc stuff. And tomorrow, the half that stayed today will leave, and the other half will stay back to do some ad hoc stuff. What that means is that they can now see their job as 1 day on, 1 day off. They can add schooling to that. They can have additional ad hoc job. They can run some businesses with that time. You can now confidently say you are paying a living wage because you are using them for part-time work. Or reduce the number, create a work schedule that makes them valuable and useful for 8 hours, and up them above the minimum wage so that they can get something that is a fair living wage. Give them the tools and resources that they need to get the job done. It's not enough to pay people's salaries. If they don't get the tools to get the job done, you're just wasting the salary in the first place. Treat employees that you are in a way that shows that you're willing to learn from them. If you're all knowing, not willing to hear and learn from people that are around you, you cannot improve your quality. All right. So what's going to be the outcome? What results will you get from a quality environment among your workforce? You have a more engaged workforce. They will think for you. They will come up with ideas. Greater feedback from your employees. They will talk because they know that when they talk, you will listen. Increase ideas for workplace improvement. Less absenteeism from the workplace. Fewer interpersonal conflicts in the workplace. Less staff turnover. Turnover is how many people you have to fire and bring in new people, how many people have to leave and create vacancies in the organization. Less hiring and firing, greater staff productivity, reduce costs due to sick time and other missed work. You have a happier workforce and you have less accidents, more promotions and employees wanting to learn new skills. You can't bring people together in an organization and say, during the interview, they prove that they can do the job, and as such, I don't have to train them again. In fact, for every position that you will fill, no matter how stringent your interviewing or selection process has been, you will always have that gap between what you designed as the expectation from that role and the best person that you found to put in the role. So you must create a training program. Review job requirements and objectives with employees, including required job documentation, and then demonstrate. So basically, you're trying to get the employee to show you what they can do so you can document. The new employee actually does the new job that they have been given as shown, and then you follow up with checks. When we're talking about confirming customer expectations, writing down metrics that you can use to objectively describe those expectations, and then understanding the gap between what you can do, what you can deliver, and what they expect, and so on and so forth. At the beginning of this lesson, we're actually talking about service level agreements. Service level agreements is a description of service level acceptable to meet customer requirements. It provides a framework for monitoring actual services. If you develop a service level agreement, it tells you what the customer expects, what you would do to meet that customer expectation. Okay, and it could be described prescriptively, prescriptive service level agreements, talk about all the inputs, talk about all of the things that will be done, not necessarily about what the customer will get. You are focusing on you, the service provider, in providing a prescriptive service level agreement. So when you see a contract that says provide 10 cleaners, give them this, give them that, they should work at this time and that time, they should use that chemical and this chemical, they should work following this method and that method, you are doing a prescriptive service level agreement. If you completely ignore what will be done, all the inputs that will go in, and you focus on what you, the customer, will get from that process, you are doing an output-based service specification. The output-based service specification, for the same example of cleaning, will not state how many cleaners and how many buckets and how much chemicals, and except for conditions that must be met for safety of chemical use and the rest. But I'll focus more on how many toilets I have, how I want the toilet to look spick and span white all the time, no stains, the square meters of my floor, how I want to see my floor, the square meters of my glass surfaces, how I want to see my glass surfaces, my walls. So I'll be focusing on the user, the user requirements based on the service you're going to deliver. So if you find some robots, some automatic means of delivering that service, all I'm going to have in the contract is I'm going to do a check or audit at so and so time, and if so and so items don't meet so and so standard of specification, you'll be penalized by not getting your full money, right? I don't care about how many cleaners you bring in or how many workers you bring in. Just make sure that I get exactly what I have described that I want. After this contract is extended a little bit out to form the performance-based contract. It's almost like a hybrid of both. But what the performance-based contract does is it not only bringing some element of the prescriptive and the output, but it places some kind of weight. It places weights on certain outputs and places conditions for certain inputs to be applied. And so it is tied to how you comply to those specifications. In essence, there are penalties, there are incentives built into it. There are conditions of service that must be met to a certain minimum. Those are prescribed in the performance-based contract. So if you want to have the best of, of contracts, you should focus on the performance-based contract, where you are writing some of the inputs, you're putting some incentives, performance requirements, and penalties, and you are also able to tie the vendors to output to say, you would have done all this, and I don't want to see, these are the conditions I want to see my assets in terms of the output. So you can combine all of that in a performance-based contract. Quality improvements cannot be something you do just on your own. You have to think about others who have similar processes or similar situations that are doing better, so you can learn from them. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. So the whole idea of benchmarking is to find other best-in-class facilities that you can now compare your own performance with. It starts by identifying your key performance indicators. What does your service contribute to the organization? You pick out the key performance indicator like customer satisfaction, rework, cost ratios for this and that, and you ask yourself, how am I doing regarding this? Are there other organizations, departments within an outside organization or within the industry who are doing better in this key performance indicator? When I find them, I want to ask them what they are doing differently. Mine is to learn from them so that I can improve my own process. That's the whole summation of benchmarking. You collect data, you compare, analyze, and determine the performance gap, develop improvement action plans, and implement those action plans. We've been talking about metrics, measure, track, trend. These are all objective tools, and they are statistical instruments or tools that we can use to measure, trend, track, analyze, forecast, whatever you want to call it. All right. So some of it are just going to be highlighted here: the Pareto chart, the check sheet, the scatter diagram, the control chart, and the histogram. We have the quality improvement tools, root cause analysis, the 5 whys, the plan to check act cycle, the 6 sigma. Some of these are models that have been developed by quality experts over the years. They are used to track manufacturing. They are used to track production in different industries, but they are also applicable to the service industry. And we're going to see some of these in the explanations that follow. Let's take a frequency diagram. It's a way to visualize certain occurrences using bars to show relativity in terms of relative intensity of volume apart from each one, right? So if you have a large number of visitors to a conference, or a large number of staff working in an office, or a large number of complaints coming in about a certain service, and you want to find a way to categorize, group them in such a way that you know where your major concern should be focused, where your biggest problem is, so you can deal with that first instead of being thrown in all directions, or dealing with something that is less important when a bigger issue is ahead of you. That's when you use tools like this. And you can use a check sheet as a basic tallying tool for counting and measuring. Oh, there was a complaint about plumbing. Tick. We're dealing with it, but we want to know when that complaint came and from who, right? So we use this tally, and then we are tallying and tallying and tallying. At the end of the week, we now say, okay, how did we do this week? we had a very terrible plumbing experience. Oh, more than 20 people made complaints about plumbing. This is the only way we can improve for next week, because we know plumbing was a big problem for us this week. We now ask ourselves what happened, why it happened, how can we prevent it from happening again. We think through the process and we get better at delivering plumbing services next week. Without being able to tally, you may not even know what your biggest problems were, what time of the day or week they occurred, and so on. So this is just a simple, basic tool. You have the root cause analysis that asks why is at multiple levels. If you do a root cause analysis and you get to the bottom, the baseline, that's the root causes. If you focus your solution on those root causes, then they are highly likely that all the other causes above them will sort themselves out. That's why it's called root cause analysis, deal with something from the roots. And then we talked about standardization, get processes to be visible, right? We could all know what needs to be done in our heads, right? But until we document them using, you could use a spreadsheet where you just put a line by line, step by step, how to do things. Or you could do a flow chart. Flow chart is very visual, very easy to understand. You can easily teach anybody how to do a particular process or follow a particular process. So this, can also be used to define flows and logical flows in the activities we perform. Just creating this can help to solve a lot of problems because it reduces the complication of people doing things differently in their own ways and giving the customers conflicting and contrary perceptions or results. Customer complaints, for example, can be tracked using the same frequency chart bars, but in the Pareto chart, it is arranged according to the most significant or the least significant. This way, you know where your biggest problems are and you can deal with them. And then you have the root cause analysis being presented in another format, which we call the fishbone diagram. It's called a cause and effect diagram. Basically, just looking at a particular problem and trying to break it down using different categories of analysis and coming up with all the myriads of issues that can be dealt with, so that you can stop having this big problem that you are trying to battle or resolve in your organization or your team. Scatter diagram helps us to establish a correlation. You map two different variables and you find out how they are related. If I'm mapping how many times I have complaints of too cold in the offices, I map it to on Monday, 3 complaints, on Tuesday, 7 complaints, on Friday, 15 complaints, on Thursday, 1 complaint, on the next Monday, no complaint, and I map that for a month, for example. And then I'm also mapping the days it rained. I might be able to put those two maps together and see how the complaints rise according to the amount of rains that fall. So if the weather, or maybe I'm using ambient temperature, environmental temperature to track complaints of AC being too cold, for example, I can use that to make a deduction as to how to set my AC controls, chiller settings during rainy period versus during sunny period, because I now have data to support that there's a correlation between too many complaints of too cold and the rainfall, right? Then you have the control chart. Things that you measure and report on has 3 patterns of direction of trending. It could trend up. You should expect it to trend up for certain items like recommendations, praise coming from customers, customer satisfaction index. Some should trend downwards, like costs, ratios should trend downwards. You should do things better and better and smarter every day. And but there are some that should stay on the mean. If you want to check, if you're taking record of your temperature, for example, in your generator operation, for example, you don't want that temperature to be rising or dropping because there's an upper specification and lower specification limit set by the operating for that operating parameter, right? So in using a control chart, you are tracking to see whether that parameter or that measurement is staying within its mean or trending out of the upper or lower specification limits. That's what you use a control chart for. And that can give you all kinds of things to consider when thinking about that particular asset. All right, so KPIs, we talked about KPIs as the things we measure, the performance measures that show the criticality, relevance, or importance of the service that we provide to the overall organization. It's key performance indicators because it affects the organization at the strategic or highest level. The things we are measuring and reporting for KPIs should directly speak to what is relevant or important to the organization at corporate strategy level. Okay, so that's why I tell you, don't focus on those reports that counts rosters and hours of appearance and diesel liters and the rest. No, the KPIs will reflect how the overall delivery of that service is adding value to the organization. Now, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't measure how work is done and how people engage with work and how people fulfill their procedures and meet with compliance or with minimal expectations, because those ones are measured under service level agreement. They are all service level measurements. So there are two types of measurements here. The service levels measure how well you are delivering on a particular service. The key performance indicators measure how that service is contributing to the organization. All right. So take cleaning for an example. How well cleaning is done. The safety of the chemicals, the clean surfaces that we have as the outcome, and all of those other things that we measure, the punctuality of the cleaners, and so on and so forth. They all add to the service level compliance for that service. But when I'm trying to look for a KPI from cleaning, I'm thinking about how cleaning contributes to the organization. So I'm thinking about profitability. Profitability is simple to calculate. How is my cost for cleaning going up or coming down? If it is going up, then I can say I'm negatively affecting profitability. If it's coming down, I can say I'm positively affecting profitability. If my cleaning is leading to fewer results, fewer complaints from workers who use the building, people are getting sick less, then I can say my cleaning is contributing to productivity. So productivity measures can measure sick time for people who use the space, absenteeism, and some of those other metrics, including complaints from cleaning or ill health, right? Now, if I'm measuring all of those high level stuff, I'm dealing with KPIs. Mind you, it's not how well I clean, but how cleaning contributes to the organization. We're going to end this lesson by looking at Toyota's 14 quality management principles. These principles were developed over time and used in manufacturing industry, but this is an adaptation for the service industry. Number one, base your management decisions on a long-term philosophy, even at the expense of short-term financial goals. Shortcuts is not good quality. Focus on quality. Create continuous process flow to bring problems to the surface. This simply means you need to avoid disjointed activities. And to do this, you create flow charts for your key activities, things that you do frequently and customers, it affects customers more, must be standardized, right? So you must create a flow process so that anybody that's going to engage in that process know exactly how it's done. Use pull systems to avoid overproduction. This simply means deliver to meet customer requirements. And the bottom line here is that you must have detailed understanding of customer requirements before you start trying to deliver. Level out workload. This means that you must maintain a balanced workload across resource pool. You have technicians on site, you have cleaners on site, you have security guards on site. Don't have one particular resource pool overloaded while the other is not. I know one thing that comes to your mind easily is, oh, well, electricity is giving us more problem. Let's get more electricians. The electricians are overworked, right? And then the plumbers are not doing anything. We started to decide with 222, all of those 111, 222 kind of mindset. And the plumbers are not doing much, but the electricians are doing too much, and the plumbers are sitting down. You are creating a very, very unproductive system. You have to be able to train the plumbers, cross-train the plumbers with some of the basic skills of electricians so they can deal with overflow of work in the electrical sector, and train the electricians with some work in the plumbing area so that they can engage. Cross-training will help you balance workload. Build a culture of stopping to fix problems to get quality right the first time. If there are issues and those issues are just growing little by little, don't wait until they become monsters before you stop. Anybody should be empowered to stop and say, hold it, let's think through this again. I see that we're going to have an issue later. All right, so that culture must be built. Standardized tasks are the foundation for continuous improvement and employee empowerment. Standardizing tasks means that we have to have a particular way we deal with things, how we deliver results. Use visual control so no problems are hidden. Reporting, effective reporting, flags out of control situation. Use only reliable, thoroughly tested technologies and supply chain partners that serve your people and processes. If you bring contractors to work, they must understand the objective, they must understand your vision as an organization. So they know why they are here to work, not just to come and work. Grow leaders who thoroughly understand the work, live the philosophy and teach it to others. Don't promote people who are not team players, who don't know how to empower others to know what they know, who are the only ones that can do what they can do. In fact, they should be left there as long as you can accommodate them and kick them out. Because if they hold on to what they know and do not allow others to know it, then they are holding your organization to ransom, and you cannot be improving in quality as an organization. So cross-training again, people who appreciate the philosophy of open-mindedness. Develop exceptional people and teams who follow your company's philosophy. Respect your extended network of partners and suppliers by challenging them to improve. Your contractors and your partners need to improve. You need to be able to challenge them to improve. Go and see for yourself to thoroughly understand the situation. You cannot expect what you don't inspect. Don't sit down and say, somebody told me that thing has been done well, and as such, I believe him. No, you will still be accountable for that outcome. Inspection, and nowadays, you first of all, understand the rule of thumb is don't sit on your desk for more than half the time. You must be up and around doing inspections and taking notes of things and confirming what's been done before you come in and start doing documentation and all the other strategy setting that you're doing on your desk. Seeing for yourself is very powerful. Make decisions slowly by consensus, thoroughly considering all options. Implement decisions rapidly. Plan, plan, plan. Let everybody be part of the planning process. Once the plan is well thought through, execution should be swift. Become a learning organization through relentless reflection and continuous improvement. Please, this is the foundation of quality in the service industry. This class has an assessment. I'll then join you to sit back to it and get it done right now instead of later, so that all assignments and assessments will be submitted as at when due, and you'll be able to learn and imbibe the lessons that have been taught, because okay, so I thought I saw Joshua's hand first. Okay, I guess we can take Oluwayomi first and then come back to Joshua. Go ahead, Oluwayomi.
Oh, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I have so many questions, but let me just ask one question. When we started the class, we talked about quality and a good grade. Please, I want you to talk more about, I don't understand when something is quality, is it not of good grade? So I want you to talk more about good grade and quality, sir.
There is nothing like good grade. There is good quality, but grade is at every level. Grade is a function of the material, a function of the specification, right? So if you buy a mop bucket, the squeegee mop bucket, right? The squeegee mop bucket has 1,000 squeezes. That's its rating, that's its grade. So 1,000 squeezes might be a titanium, a brass material that does not rust. So I can keep mopping and using it for 1,000 times. Every day I squeeze like 10 times, and then for 100 days it serves me, right? That's its rating. There is another mop bucket that is made of a plastic material that as I squeeze, use that squeegee to squeeze, is rated for 100 times. It's cheaper, right? It is the grade. It's plastic. It's not titanium. It's not brass. It's plastic. There's another one for 500 squeezes that is iron. It is strong. It can last well, but then water will corrode it and so on and so forth, right? So if I want to buy the one of 100 squeezes, and that one is 1,000 naira. Or I want to buy the one of 1,000 squeezes for 5,000 naira. It's my choice. Both of them are my quality. The important thing is that I know that this one will work for 1 year, and this one I have to replace every 3 months. So if I decide that I want the one to run for 1 year, that's my quality. If I decide to take the one that I'll be replacing every 3 months, that's my quality. There are different grades. There's nothing about quality in grades. If you're the kind of person that don't like to wear one attire twice, you probably won't be going for those expensive designers that are bought with 5 million naira, right? You probably just get fancy stuff. Every time you come out, you look fresh and new. That's your quality. Somebody else will go and buy one set of lace attire and wear it every day for the next 5 years, right? That's quality. There are different grades. The expectation of quality is what you are getting out of it. Both of you decide that you want to be covered. But one person has a softer expectation that I don't want to be seen the same color, the same material, the same appearance any 2 days. They don't decide that, look, I want to be seen in this desktop, very expensive attire every day for the next 5 years, right? So it's all quality. There's nothing different about the two. So you can separate grade from quality conveniently, okay?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, and that's why sometimes I worry when an FM is arguing with a client about FM telling the client you don't know quality. This is the best quality in the market. No, that's not your job. The customer is the one that tells you this is what I want. Now, your job really is to be able to explain the difference in grades. Somebody wanted to come and do some work for me, electrical work, and he says, this cable is this price. It is copper cable. This cable is this price. It's iron cable or aluminum cable. He was very clear on it. Both of them would conduct electricity. Aluminum will conduct the way copper will conduct, right? But if I put a heating material, a heating load on an aluminum conductor for extended period, I might end up having the insulation melt because the heat it will generate because of higher resistance of aluminum compared to copper is different, right? But if I'm going to use that line to run to my desktop where I only put a laptop on that line, I don't need to buy the expensive copper. It's just laptop I want to put on it, so it will never need to get hot. But if I'm running that line to an ironing station where I have to press close around the clock on that line, I need a copper cable of the right dimension. That is what I want. So the two of them are different grades, but the aluminum running to a workstation is as high as a quality expectation of that user as the copper running to a pressing board. Joshua. Joshua, you can ask a question now.
Okay. Hello, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Okay, I have a few questions. Right. Actually, in the place, I can't talk for much. Let me just ask one, then I will ask the rest later.
Okay.
I'm actually in an hospital, so I can't talk that much. So, answer you gave recently now about quality and grade.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens if in responding to a contract and I decide to use something of a very high grade, like the 1000 squeeze we talked about, which is very expensive, and it shoots up. This is all our own commercial, and it shoots up my own. And for the sake that I want to use something of a very high quality, and it affects my commercial. So how do you work around something like that, and the client doesn't, and you don't lose out thinking?
They're saying the same thing. The client says your cost is too high.
Yeah, and so I don't think.
The client says your cost is too high. If your cost is too high, you are doing bad quality. Forget anything else you are thinking. For you to meet the customer requirements, you must prescribe a specification that is the cheapest cost for you to be delivering quality. I will not insist on buying a high grade for a customer that cannot afford it. The important thing is define the customer expectation in terms of the service output the customer wants. Look, you know, there are different types of mop sticks, brushes, machines, vacuum machines, all kinds of equipment we use in cleaning and servicing facilities. Some customers are very price sensitive. You want to ensure that, one, you understand what their requirements are. Two, you need to know all the options of how you can meet those requirements. Three, you must select the cheapest one to meet those requirements. Before you get even to that selection of the cheapest one, you must present all the options to the client with their pros, cons, features, and all of those. So the client can now say, take for example, our technicians like using a certain tool, maybe a screwdriver that is a Bosch screwdriver that is 15,000 naira, right? And it lasts for 10 years in the toolbox. This client cannot afford a Bosch toolbox. There is a cheaper screwdriver of 750 naira that you have to replace every year. Will it screw and unscrew for that 1 year? If the answer is yes, that is the one the customer is asking you to use. Because next year, he will buy another screwdriver for 750 naira. Why do you want to go and buy the 15,000 naira screwdriver? Because that's what you perceive as quality. No, that's the answer I'm trying to give. We don't determine quality, and we don't prescribe grade as quality. We understand the customer expectation, and we go for the simplest, cheapest means of fulfilling it, especially if the customer is price sensitive. A customer that doesn't care, in fact, some customers don't like seeing you using cheap things around them. They don't like seeing you appearing poor or cheap around them. It's a prestigious thing for them to pay for. Take, for example, security companies. Say, I want to go and have a G4X, for example. It's just to open gate and close gate you want to. You want G4S. That means you want prestige. If I'm going to provide security for such a company or such an organization, I already know what they want. I go and get them something in the range of G4S executive. I won't go and get them what was the name, Primero Uno or one of those other security companies that they will wear khaki that looks like Boy Scouts. I won't do that. You understand? So because I know what they want, what the kind of perception they want, they are willing to pay for it. Even if that 600 per person cost is just to open the gate and close the gate. That's what they want. For them, that is quality. For another client, he wants people that are intelligent. He will tell you, don't bring anybody that doesn't have a good qualification to my side. They must be able to fill documentation. They must be able to fill the log. They must be able to write incident reports. Let me see how much that cost will be. The cheapest you can get to meet that requirement, you go for it. That's how it's done. Don't insist. Don't prescribe. You must tell all the alternatives and make a recommendation. Let the client be the one saying, this is what I want. When you're not documenting what the customer wants, note all of those things that are the features you have explained so that later it will not become an issue, okay? All right, have a nice evening, everybody. Please do your assignments right away. See you again on Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Good night, sir.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. God bless you.
Yeah. Bye.